Hello YouTube, it is Cuber, and I am here to finally deliver the tutorial for the chiptune effect that I debuted on my channel recently. This is an effect that can make some sort of input audio sound like it is coming from an old video game, like an 8-bit filter. Now, this is primarily an audio effect. However, I do have a basic video effect to match, and I think it's appropriate to apply these together. So I want to show you how to do this today, but before I get into that, I do have a few disclaimers. This effect is just a simple filter, so you may see videos online of people who will take some modern video game music and they'll redo it in an 8-bit sound like font. But this requires a lot more than what we're going to do today. That requires like making a MIDI music sheet and essentially putting together an entire new piece of music. This is just a filter, so the results are going to be highly variable. They may sound good, they may not sound good, but in any case they're going to sound retro and fun. Another disclaimer that I have before I get into the nitty-gritty is that this sounds a lot like an effect that recently debuted on U-Man's channel that also involves some beeps and chiptune-like effect, although I think it's generally higher pitched than what I have here. So I'm not trying to replace that effect or usurp it. I'm just showing you how I made this effect because this is something people wanted to see, and I'm happy to share with you how I did it. Now, interestingly enough, one of my commenters noticed that this sounds very similar to the 8-bit filter in the Nintendo 3DS's music app, and they were actually pretty much right on the money. I used a DSi, it wasn't a 3DS, but I used a DSi to make this effect, and I had to do a little bit of fancy footwork to actually get it off of the system because the DSi doesn't have a straightforward way to export the sound. So I'll be talking about that a little bit more later. So in order to prepare the sound for the DSi, we are going to need to convert the sound to an M4A file. So what we're going to do is we're going to run, well, I mean, this depends on if you're using Windows or if you're using Mac or using Linux. You just need some program to convert your audio or your video from video format to M4A audio. And I'm going to do this using FFmpeg. So I'm just going to say my input file is videos, logos. Today we're going to be using Woodnap. Woodnap video logo.mp4, and I'm going to save this as a M4A. It's going to do its thing, and it's done. So now we have an audio effect that we can use, and if you're using Windows, there are probably some converters that exist that can do this. Mac should have FFmpeg, but also, worst comes to worst, is you can import your video into Audacity and then export it as an M4A. Now, you don't have to do any edits to it just to prepare it for the DSi. The DSi is going to take care of the edits. And this may work on a 3DS, I'm not sure, I haven't tested it yet. So the next thing you're going to need to do is transfer this sound to an SD card. And I'm not going to personally go through that in this tutorial because the method that I have to use is very complicated. I actually have to put it on another computer that can read USBs and SD cards, and then I have to put it on the SD card there. So just find some way to put the M4A file that you made on an SD card, and I will pause the tutorial here so that I can move on to the portion involving the DSi. Okay, so we are now at the portion of the tutorial that involves the DSi itself. And I'm going to actually turn on the system for you so that you can get a sense of the nostalgia. Rightio. So I put the I put the SD card in the DS, and I'm going to start the DSi sound application. Let me just turn up the volume all the way. So let me just play this as normal. Alright, so we have the sound, it's working, and for some reason on my DS it always goes to the first sound I have, so which one is this? That's the rising sun. I want, what now? 9 seconds. Okay. So here's what the filter sounds like on its own. So all that was done by just going to, in this menu of options here, I went to this panel of 4 things that has the effects. There's 3 others to choose from, but honestly instrumental doesn't really do much. And I hit 8-bit game and I played it. So that in and of itself is not particularly difficult to do. The difficult part is how do we get this onto a computer, because we can't export this sound. So what we have to do is a few things, and allow me to just set something up real quickly over here. We want to put this sound on a computer, and in order to do that, we're basically going to hook the DS up like it was being hooked up to a speaker. You can see that this has a speaker output, or at least a headphone output, and we are going to commandeer that and use it to record our audio. So you're going to want to make sure that you have a plug like this one that is plugged in on one end to your computer, and you're going to want to plug the other end into the DS. So that's going to go in the bottom here. I might need 2 hands for this, or maybe not, or maybe I do. Give me a second here. I'll be right back with you. So the DS is now hooked up to my computer. I got the plug in, and we want to make sure that the computer will actually take audio from the DS. So this involves a little bit of knowledge of what the plugs are named. Usually, in doubt, you can just plug this into a microphone, which is a red ring on the computer. If you plug this into that, then it should work. I have multiple audio inputs on my computer, and you can see that it's currently set up to use my microphone as the input, which I don't want. I actually want it to use the DS. So I am in my settings. I'm going to change the input device to line in. Now, if you plug the DS directly into a microphone port, you may not have to do this. So I'm going to commit the cardinal sin of recording my computer screen with a camera because I can't actually screen cap this without messing up the audio because I'm directly manipulating the audio on the computer. You just need to be at some point where your computer is ready to record input and your DS is plugged in like it is playing through headphones. So we're going to open up Audacity. And we're just going to start recording. Then we go over to the DS and we hit play. Now you won't be able to hear it because it's going into your computer, not into a speaker. But you can see that it's creating a spectrogram and it's already done. So once it's done, you can stop recording. Stop recording. Alright, so that's it for this portion, and I'll get back to the screen recording portion of this. Okay, so I am back to my computer. I've got my sound on the Audacity, and let me just give it another play to see how it sounds. Alright, so it sounds exactly how I want it to, except that it has this big chunk of silence at the beginning and at the end because it was capturing everything that the DS was doing and not just the sound. So I'm just going to trim off most of the silence at the beginning and at the end. I'm not really sure what to do about this scratchy poppy stuff here. I'll leave it for now. I'll trim it off if I need to in the original video. So we got our audio in here, we've trimmed off the silence. Now I'm just going to normalize it so that it has a volume of -0.1 dB. Because usually, even at maximum volume, the DSi does produce sounds that are pretty small quality, low volume, small quality. What am I going on about? Low volume. So this should be ready now. Okay, so that's all done. We're just going to export it as some audio of our choosing where we know where it is. And I'm going to do that now and resume with the Kdenlive portion of the video. Okay, so I have imported the audio that I got from Audacity into Kdenlive, and I also have imported the original Woodnap video logo. We can see that the sync is actually pretty bad. Apparently there were some unnecessary clicks here at the very beginning, and I'm not sure what that was all about. So I'm going to make an effort to bring these two in sync as much as I can. We're just going to get rid of that. We'll move this back a little bit. And the sync doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to start at roughly the same time, end at roughly the same time. I mean, these peaks up here have about the same location. What if I played them together? Well, the beeping kind of overpowers it, but it does sound pretty cool. So I'm just going to trim this now so that we're not going beyond the end of the video. And now, because we have this all synced up, we can mute our original audio and just have the beeping. And now for the video effect. The video effect, I would say, is a lower priority, but I'm still going to show you how to do it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that our video fills a widescreen. And I usually do this by applying the transform effect. Fit to width sounds good, and maybe let's make this less than that. You know, you don't have the adjustments that you can do aren't fixed. You can do whatever you feel is right in order to get this in a good place. And then we're actually going to apply an effect that's very similar to that of the robot effect. We're going to drag on pixelize to our video, and these pixels are a little bit too big. I usually do values of 27 and 48. So anything that is some number times 9 up here, and that same number times 16 down here, because we're dealing with widescreen video. If I did 48 by 48, then the pixels would have the same aspect ratio as the video, and that's not what we want. We could do smaller pixels if we wanted to. We could do 18 and 2 times 16 would be 32 if we wanted to, and I might do that this time because of the text. Let me go back to the original. Now I think I'll stick with the values I usually use, the 27 and 42. I think it looks cooler on the those whoosh. And then I'm going to add the effect posterize. And with posterize, I usually just go with the defaults. So posterize basically limits the number of colors that you have. However, it is not quite like threshold. Threshold is basically if you turn posterize all the way up, but you can actually increase the number of levels that are available in posterize. So you can have more colors available to you. Like here you can see we have bright red, but we also have like an orange, we have dark green, we have bright green. I can increase this even further and we get more colors. And essentially the more I increase it, the more of the original colors I have. So I usually just take the default of 0.104, but that's not to say that you have to take the default. Definitely play around with this value. I'm interested to see in how it will change the final product. And honestly, this number of levels does look kind of cool. So I'll go with the default for now, but feel free to try this, fun things with this effect. So I'm just going to play this one last time, and we're going to see how this looks. Now that is one very retro looking Woodnap logo, and I could totally see that being the startup to some video game created by Woodnap. I can't imagine them doing anything like that, but if they did, who knows? Maybe it'll be like one of those Game Boy video things that they had back in the day. So that's it. It's weird. I don't want to say that this is my effect per se, because I am just applying a filter that's preloaded on the DSi, so it's not like I'm really mashing a bunch of filters together. It's not like I'm tweaking any settings. It's just a preset thing that I'm applying. But the sort of genius in this is the fact that I was able to actually utilize it by getting it off of the DSi and onto a computer. So I'm sort of bringing it out of the DSi only world and letting it be a part of these effects. So that's the part I'll take credit for. And I do hope that this effect is fun and useful to you. I don't know if this works with a 3DS. You're free to try it. I know it works with a DSi. And you are free to ask any questions that you have in the comments. So thank you for your time and your attention, and have a good day.